I watched over 1,100 episodes of One Piece. It was tough getting through a lot of the episodes and arcs. Sometimes it dragged. Sometimes I was overwhelmed by the number of episodes I had left. I wanted to stop, but I pressed on. And I can proudly say that I'm now caught up to the manga. Now, how long did this take me? It took me a little over a year. I actually caught up to the very end of the Wino arc before Eggheart arc began. So I actually been caught up for a while. I did stop many times, especially after the arcs I did not like. The pace of some of the arcs, it did drag on and it made it tough to get through. I skipped all of the filler episodes, which made it easier, but it was still tough to commit to watching so many episodes. Each arc felt like I was running a marathon, and I had to either watch something else for a little while or completely just stop watching One Piece altogether because I just could not do it anymore. It was draining. Luckily at that time, in my job, I was traveling a lot. So on the airplane, I watched a lot of One Piece episodes. I was able to catch up that way. I also read a lot of the manga to catch up faster because the pace of the anime was so bad, especially after the time skip. Now, what was my favorite arcs? Wano, Impel Down, Marineford, Water 7, and Enies Lobby. The Marineford arc actually made me a fan of the show, which is weird to say because that arc ends actually on episode 489. Water 7 and Enies Lobby, those were good arcs that kept me interested in to see where the story would go. Impel Down is where I actually started to get hooked to the show. The Marineford arc made me a fan. The Wano arc actually had me convinced that One Piece is one of, if not the best anime. And you know what my favorite anime is? Naruto. And One Piece, after the Wano arc, I was like, okay, this might be the GOAT. It might be the GOAT. Now, this is what One Piece does a good job of. Excellent job of building the world of each island, and that is evident in the Wano arc. The music, the style, the characters. It's hard to imagine that Oda would be able to top what he did in Wano because it introduces some of the greatest characters that I loved, like Odin. The arc also introduces some of the most disgusting, despicable characters in television history, and I'm not talking about Kaido. I'm talking none other than the Roach himself, Orochi. Another thing that the Wano arc does well is it provides, I'm not even kidding you, I can do a whole video on the Wano arc because it's really that incredible. There were also some really bad arcs. The worst arc hands down in One Piece is the Thriller Bark arc. I hated it. To be fair, and I'm just talking about the anime for Thriller Bark, so I don't know if the pacing is just different in the manga. And I would say Fishman Island, but I actually started reading the manga during Fishman Island because the anime, that's where it just started dragging. I can't properly rate. There's nothing entertaining about the Thriller Bark arc. I know this is where we meet Brooks. I know this story and this arc has a lot of important things that happens that's going to pop up later in the story. But I hated watching that one. Gecko Moria should not be a 7 warlord. He shouldn't have been it before it disbanded. At no point was he scary. At no point was he intimidating. They thought because they made it a Halloween themed arc that he was going to be intimidating. No, there was nothing that I liked about him, and there's nothing that felt like he was a real threat to the story. Especially not after we just saw Mihawk in Crocodile right before we see Gecko Moria. I don't understand how we can go to Mihawk literally cutting a ship in half, destroying Zoro, Crocodile, who pretty much had a whole city in lock, and he actually felt scary. Even though Luffy soloed him, he actually felt scary. Then we go to Gecko Moria, who felt like a joke. That felt like we were going from here to the story all the way down, and that's basically what Marvel did with bringing us to Thanos, to Kang the Conqueror, who got beat by Ant-Man. Come on now, bro. Ain't no way y'all spending the whole video looking at my dirty shirt. I know my shirt dirty. I'm editing the video and I see my shirt dirty. Listen to the content. I know. I'm sorry. I'll do better. Enjoy the video. There was one cool moment that this arc gives us, and that's when Kuma gives Zoro all the pain from the Straw Hats. That was actually tight, and that proved that Zoro was a dog. That's the one moment that I like from the Thriller Bark arc. He's a G, man. I'm telling you, Zoro, he got to be one of the best characters in the story. Now, let's talk about the Fishman Island arc. that was extremely slow, even in the manga. Like I mentioned, this arc made me read the manga just so I can get past the nonsense. And you can honestly say that for most of the arcs after the time skip, the pacing is so bad. The Fishman Island arc isn't as bad as the Thriller Bark arc, but it was extremely boring. The last arc that I thought was boring, and this might be controversial to say, but the Dressrosa arc, it had its moments, but for the most part, it was just aight. And I have another controversial opinion. Doflamingo, he's just all right. I mean, he's strong, his powers were tight, but he's way too overhyped. I got excited when we first started this arc because the characters in the Punk Hazard arc, they kept hyping up Doflamingo like he was one of them ones. And everybody who talks about One Piece makes Doflamingo seem like he's one of those ones. But he's just all right. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. He's really an afterthought to me. He's like, okay, as a warlord, I get it. But when we're talking about the Emperors of the Sea, he's come on now. Let's talk about the world building. I think Oda does a great job of world building. They do a good job of giving each island a character. The people on Dressrosa acts differently than the people on Alabasta and so on. In the story, they also do a good job of creating a mood for each island. You saw that in Wano and you saw that in Dressrosa. You saw it with the music, with the vibe of the city, with the OST. Like, I really love that part of the anime. Now, the characters are another good part of the show. Luffy is a great protagonist. He's likable when you actually root for his story. Setting up Luffy as an accidental revolutionary is actually genius in my mind. My absolute favorite scene is when Luffy punches the Celestial Dragon in the face. I kept saying to myself that if he actually did that, he would actually become one of my favorite characters in the show, when he did. I almost paused the show and started clapping because Luffy just shows, bro, I don't care who you are. You're not gonna be talking to my friends. You're not gonna be disrespecting my friends. That's just what it is. Luffy also doesn't suffer from what I think Naruto suffers from in his show. If you ask someone their favorite character in Naruto, they'll say Itachi, they'll say Sasuke, Kakashi. They might even say Minato, but very rarely do you even hear somebody say that their favorite character is Naruto, and Naruto is actually one of them dogs. I don't think that happens in One Piece though. Luffy is my favorite character in the show, followed by Zoro, who's a dog, like I said. Chopper is a fan favorite, and actually I think most people actually like Chopper than Luffy, but that doesn't diminish how great Luffy is, and that just shows how great Chopper is, really. I'm a film major, so I'll say that we always talk about, when I'm writing screenplays, that each character has to be three-dimensional. They do a good job of creating three-dimensional characters. The women characters are like, okay, look, the design for it is typical anime designs, but the actual character has depth to them, and that's what I actually like to see in stories. That's what I like to see in characters. Another like A+ for this. Was it worth it to watch 1100 episodes of One Piece? I mean, I did read some of the manga. Was that worth it? Is this story worth it? Should you catch up in the story? I have one question for y'all. If it wasn't worth it to watch all this, would I be wearing this hat right now to cock to the side? Would I be even making a video talking about this? One Piece is absolutely worth it. I'll put One Piece up against any show, against any anime. One Piece is really one of them ones. Get on a pirate ship. If you haven't watched One Piece, they're now on hiatus. Watch this show right now. It's 100% worth it. And I'll holler at y'all in the next video. Peace.